Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Greubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists. It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hi, everyone. This is Stacy Barnett from Canine Detection Collaborative, and I'm here with my two co-hosts, Crystal Wing.
Hello.
And Robin Greubel.
Greetings.
It's always interesting. I'm like, how are they going to say hello this?
Right?
It's kind of...
We might have to start choosing foreign languages or something. I don't know.
That'd be kind of fun. But, I'm always like, well, who do I want to introduce this time? I try to go back and forth. You guys probably figured that out.
Yes. I haven't noticed, honestly.
No, it's just for funsies. So we were talking in our last episode, I made the comment about how you really can't mess up your dog. And I was kind of thinking, I'm like, that was kind of a big phrase.
Big statement.
Big statement. Thank you. Fixing my English. Yeah, big statement. And I wasn't really thinking about the extremes, but when kind of, talking through some of this week, sometimes though, if you have you can have frequent bad training that may affect if you do it on a frequent basis, if something doesn't go well frequently, that's not good for your training, or maybe you're trialing a lot and you're not having a lot of success, like that can be an issue, or things happen in seminars. So we were kind of thinking about how about all of that, and how does that affect our training? How does that affect our training?
I'm guilty. I'll go to seminars and I'll see somebody doing something. And I'll be like, "Ooh, that's really cool and interesting. I wonder what would happen if I would do that."
Uh-huh.
And then usually what happens is something not quite as cool as I had hoped.
Mm-hmm.
And I especially did this when I was way earlier in my career. And especially when I hadn't figured out some of the stuff that I've now got at least a remote clue on. I wouldn't say I have it figured out, but I at least have an idea, right?
Yeah.
And I can dissect some stuff.
Yeah.
And so we get very, very seduced by a methodology because we've gone to a seminar and we've seen somebody teach it for 2 or 3 days, 4 or 5 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you think you can go home and you can do this all by yourself. And it's literally like a train wreck.
Yeah. Or it doesn't even fit with how you're training to begin with.
And then your dog is like, "Dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Can I just bite you?"
You're killing me. This is the whole protection sport world right now because it's a whole bunch of teach in, teach all the craziness and the barking at the end of the leash and for the way we teach things, we can't correct them later. We can't make them not do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have to start with a lot of control and more thought in the beginning. So then when people will later on, like the dog's 2 years old and they come to us and they say, "We want to do it in a different way now. We don't want to use some of the tools or some of the ways we've been doing in the past." And then they jump into it and then they're like, "Well, this doesn't work."
Right.
But it does. But it's going to be a bit of a challenge because now your foundation has to be a little different. So you have to think about things in a different way. So you can't really just kind of pick this or pick that. You do have to be consistent.
So that actually kind of comes down to, you kind of have to, that's the hard part. It's like kind of building off of what you said and something about what Robin said kind of got my brain going, is that at the beginning, when we don't really know a whole lot, I think we're probably more susceptible, right, to going to a seminar or something and kind of going whole hog into what the clinician is telling us to do, because we don't have the experience yet at that point to understand what we can and cannot adopt without causing other issues. So it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know until...
And you still sometimes don't know what you don't know even. I think people should understand that sometimes I even go through a whole process of wow, I didn't know that. How did I not know that?
Oh,
All of the time,
that definitely happens, but it's
typically on a daily basis. But
I just mean more like how the pieces get put together, right? So
yes,
even with a lot of experience, you're still going to get like, whoa, I wasn't thinking about that. Like that's just normal growth, and you're always learning something. But I think in the beginning, when you don't really know how all those, or even how a lot of those pieces come together, or you haven't yet put everything together into one cohesive, like, quote, air quote, finished dog yet, it's hard to know what you're going to potentially break or what's not going to work. Right.
right. And all of a sudden, the picking up and saying, I think of some of the, no, this is how you have to pair a dog to odor that you learn at a seminar, which is totally outside of all of the foundation stuff that you've been putting on your dog. And the clinician is like, this will absolutely fix your problems, blah, 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 blah. It turns into this sort of, you just do it in this way and you will never have any problems whatsoever. I didn't know, I'm probably stepping on toes and hitting nerves all over the place, but it's one of those things that I've had a lot of students, and I've done it myself, where I then go home and you hit a wall and you're like, I don't know how many times I said, especially in my career, well, now I have to just start over.
Or when you go to a seminar, there's one slice of one piece. And I think with dog training, there's always the what if this, what if that, and that gives you that multi-dimensional perspective so that you can actually problem solve your way through training as opposed to a recipe, right?
Correct.
So you're not going to get that depth in a seminar, in a weekend, a week. You're not going to get it.
Okay. And then that's where it really bothers me.
That takes years. Yeah.
It really bothers me as an instructor, though, because people want to learn and get a taste of what you can offer. And then, so I have one coming up in Kansas, in Manhattan, Kansas. And so it's geared toward play and functional obedience. And what I really try to think about is, can I show you how to take this tool and then apply it in the beginning stages of several different behaviors, so that then you can start to see that, okay, this is how it can work. And then I can take it in this way and then build from it.
Yeah.
But I already know that you're going to get stuck because I can't show you all of the end phases, but I can show you enough of the beginnings. And so that's so hard, because then I'm like, and I tell people like, Messenger, get me on Messenger.
Yeah.
And if at any point you're like, hey, you showed me this thing, what's the next step? I will tell you. I want to be able to help you continue.
Yep.
And that's just something that always bothers me. 'Cause I'm like,
that's the hard part about being a clinician, is like you come in and you're like, okay, I've got this perspective of this team. This is where I think you have some holes. And you can kind of, and there are some times where I'm looking at a team and I'm like, I would really like to guide you down this other path because I think it would be better for you in the long run. But I can't give you all of the information that you need to be able to execute on that. And at that point, your hands are just tied because you're really only dealing with them for the weekend. So you have to kind of pick one piece to try to make a big enough impact to help them out without sending them adrift.
so hard.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
Because you want them to succeed. I want to be there for them. And
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's the other thing too, is I feel like I have made so many like long-term friends because we chat back and forth now about these things. And then that gets me back into the like, okay, I don't have time to do this with everybody. It's like,
yes.
Yeah.
So then that also is my boundary thing, back to our boundaries episode.
Right.
Where I'm like, I want to show you the next steps because you've invested in that and I want to be there for you. So yeah, that makes it hard too. Cause I'm like, I still got to go train my dogs and work my full-time job and my part-time job. And
it's hard. It is hard. And I do think, when you're a newer handler and you go into those situations, regardless of how good the clinician is, it's difficult because you do only get that one slice. You don't see how all those 3-dimensional if-then statements, right, around the training.
we talk about progression plans a lot on this podcast. And what you see typically are here are the very foundation behaviors.
Mhm.
And then what happens as clinicians, you have to fast forward to be like, well, this is what the end product looks like.
Yeah.
And the stuff in the middle
Yeah.
is where the crux of the bridge is to get
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
beginning stuff to the end stuff.
Yeah.
And so a number of repetitions to get through things, to get there. I talk a lot about how people get bored with training. So we push too fast and we don't get the number of reps in. And so the dogs have holes because we get bored, the dogs don't.
Yeah.
And I think about how if you're adopting that new or you train up, or you show up to training, it's with a group of people that you train with once a month. It's your team, whatever context you're showing up. And it's like not how you would train. And it might be a not so good training or where you're at in your progression plan, but you have to show up to training because often in the search and rescue team or whatever professional detection dog world you're in, you have to show up and, check a box that you were at training and they want to see your dog work and blah, 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 blah. And it's just, you're just not at a place where you can train something with your dog that, or what they're setting up is not going to benefit your animal.
Right.
And that becomes a lot of peer pressure then. And so sometimes that's the old, nope, I'm going to set this up over here for my dog because I'm working on some specific stuff. And handling those sorts of things or looking at a clinician. I've done this as a seminar that I looked at the person running the seminar and they said, hey, go get your dog. And I looked at them and said, you know what? I'm good watching.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to like how my dog works. It doesn't fit in. And I said this off to the side, not in front of the whole group. Right. And I was like, no, I'm good. You're not going to like how my dog works. So I'm just going to watch. I learned a lot at that particular clinic.
Yeah.
I didn't have to participate with my dog because my dog didn't like playing the game the way that they wanted the game played.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate too. There was a story someone told me recently about they were working with someone and they liked what that person had with their dog. And so then they were like, how did you do that? And they told them the steps, like, well, I don't got time for that. So it's good when the person can recognize, that, no, I don't have time for that. So they need to figure out a different path. And that's okay. It's just a different way of doing it. I think something you said too, Robin, is I think we get worried about, some of us, I get worried about plateaus. And so there's that, I can do the steps, but if I hang out at a step too long, am I going to plateau there? And so then we want to push a little harder that way too, so we don't get hung up. So there's kind of two sides to that. So I've been known to stay at a place too long, and then it's like, oh, and I even did that with Radish. I feel like I rewarded her too many times of when her nose hit source.
Okay. And
so then it was the turn around and stare at me because it was like, you didn't reward me yet. Like, you're right, because you have to sit now.
Right.
The whole foundation we built on sitting, you have to do that now. It's like, but you reward me for nose on source.
Right.
And
I just tell that in that way as kind of hopefully you can visualize it versus, I don't know what she's thinking. You can say probably, but.
I'm not the one that twitches. So.
Well, and so it's one of those things where you literally are going, okay, you can get stuck at a spot in the progression plan. That's why it's a progression plan that you need to move through. Right. But when you go to a clinic and they show you the steps and you're like, well, okay, we've got to this step. My dog will stick its head in the box and hold it for 10 seconds because we're doing an ORT. What's the next step? How do I make that move on to the next thing?
Yeah. I worry then that people kind of take that and then they just kind of like assume that they have that behavior and then they just start to make these huge lumpy leaps. The next thing you know, you've got a lot of problems.
Right. Yes.
That's when you have a really good instructor is when they can tell you how. So I'll pick on Sally Dickinson.
Yes.
at hers, we did
love her.
Yeah, pick on in a good way. Like uh, I'm Team Sally. She had us do the ORT. So it was clear criteria of the head needed to be in the box or whatever we were using and to really be read on that source. And then I at first didn't recognize how it was applying to the next search that she set up because it was in hay bales. And I'm like, this is so different. Like it was, imagine a whole bunch of hay bales stacked like 3 or 4 deep and rows of them, probably 15 rows long and it kind of an L shape. I don't know if you can visualize that or not. But in the middle of them, there is the V kind of shape where the hay bales come together at the top. And she put the source there. But the concept was put your nose in the box. And then it's clear criteria for us then of when to mark the dog.
Gotcha.
Well, now when they go to the hay bale, if they put their nose in the lower section in the hay bale, okay, because there's that open V section.
Yeah.
Guess what? You have a very clear criteria that they're in a strong odor there and you can mark that. Or if they get up on their back legs and they put their head in that space where the odor is, clear criteria, you can mark that. And it was like, oh, but that was a great example of showing how it went from this ORT, put your nose in a hole in a box, to put your nose in a hay bale.
Yeah.
So that's where I think you really need a thoughtful instructor that can show you how to make that leap.
Yeah.
And then you're onto something. So yay, Team Sally.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And I'm picturing all the hay bales before they had issues.
Yeah. Robin.
Yeah, before they all caught on. Okay, we only had like 10 that caught on fire.
Only
10.
I'm picturing these. I'm like,
the fire
are these pre-burnt or post-burnt?
This is pre-burnt. So, and they're big round hay bales. They're not just regular square
giant.
little.
No.
Yeah, they're 5.5 feet tall.
Yeah. And I'm picturing Powder would love that. She loves climbing on those things.
Oh, yeah. And so I just think that it goes back to, and I think about, we're spinning up seminar season, right? For a lot of fall search and rescue seminars. And I just want people to, as you're driving to or from or whatever, and we all do it. We are at a seminar in the heat of the moment. You're like, oh my God, that looks fun. It's not going to hurt you to try it once with your dog.
Yep.
Right? That kind of comes along with tinkering.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can expect that at a seminar. You go to a seminar, you're going to expect to do something a little bit different.
Right.
Functional assessment.
Yes.
Yeah.
How's my dog deal with this situation? And if your dog goes, woo, that was fun. Okay. Rock on. But also be conscious of what you're teaching your dog.
Yep.
And so just that, those are some of the things that I think about for clinicians or when you're teaching stuff. And when you show up and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to work with this because my team is telling me I have to show up or you've paid for a private with somebody and you really want to hear what they have to say. Those are hard too.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing is be smart about the people that you choose to learn from and be a good advocate for yourself and your dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because a bad training, like you said, if you go into it, I think with the expectation of a functional assessment, and I think that's important because I think my mindset when I go into it thinking, okay, I don't know what my dog is going to do here.
Right.
So this is why I think this is a good idea to try it because maybe I don't have this opportunity at another time. Maybe it's amount of time that the thing has been there or the size of it, or there's so many variables that it's like, yeah, this is worth it. I feel like this is in my dog's wheelhouse and I feel like I'm comfortable trying this. But if either of those is a no, then don't. Then don't. You don't have to.
Agreed.
It's okay to say no. And it's okay to go, can we change this somehow? And that's something that I feel comfortable doing now. And I think it's because hanging out with you all summer, but I feel comfortable now saying to an instructor, is there a way that we can change this? Because I don't think my dog can fill in the blank.
Or I think let's talk this through so that I understand the ramifications because I'm having this going on with my dog.
Yeah. And what's my contingency plans? If my dog does this, or what are some things that you've seen dogs do in this situation? Because I don't know what I don't know. And if they do that, I want to know, like, what should I do? Like, what should my reaction be?
Right.
Because, that's the other part of it. So that mental management piece, if I'm not able to manage that it's a functional assessment, I often find myself getting disappointed or frustrated. But when I think this is just an assessment, then I'm like, you know what? I'm just looking to see what's going to happen. I don't expect this to go any certain way.
And the word that you said, frustration, is, I think, something that I think is very helpful for people if they can kind of pay attention to both kind of how they're feeling and watch their dog. And if they start to see frustration behaviors, or they start to see, drop in motivation, or the dog's drop in confidence, that those are very clear indications that you need to do something different. And when you see that, those are kind of your red flags, that if that is happening, and because if you are using this as a functional assessment and you see that happening, that you probably want to do a little bit of a timeout and try to have a conversation.
And if you feel the frustration within yourself too, I think that's also a big red flag.
Yeah, because if you're feeling frustration, then that's all part of I'm going back to, like, in my head or in my memory, I took an agility private, and I rarely feel frustrated. And I was not connecting well. It was the first time I had worked with this instructor, and I was not connecting well with this person. And I was feeling very frustrated because I saw some stress behaviors in my dog. And I could see that it wasn't like, she got very into wanting to fix it in a certain way. And it wasn't bad for my dog, but it was frustrating because I could see that it was just getting worse. And so I was getting frustrated. And at that point, I just said, I just need to put her in the car. And I remember this instructor looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm in the middle of fixing this. I'm like, no, this needs to stop. I need to put my dog in the car now. Because it was, and I think it comes down to, you've also got to be able to kind of do a little bit of a timeout and advocate for how you're feeling, or advocate for the behavior changes that you're seeing in your dog that are not necessarily moving in the right direction.
On topic, off topic, another thing to have is a wait station, kind of can my dog sit or down or do this thing while I have a conversation with someone else, and practice that skill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's so unfair to your dog to expect them to be in work mode.
Yeah.
And then you check out to have this conversation.
Yeah. Very
and
good point.
that's just not okay.
Good
so
point.
To be able to say, I'm going to put my dog in the car so we can have a conversation, even set that expectation up beforehand, is also kind of nice.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And that's one of those, a lot of people teach places. That's something that you should absolutely feel. A pause table.
Yeah.
Can be more for
Go to a mat.
Go to a mat. Go sit on a climb. Do that a lot. So, and they just kind of know you go sit on there, and mom's going to, that's how I readjust a lot of my training scenarios, is while they're sitting on a climb, and I can readjust everything, and then we go back to work. So they're used to doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And how you handle that with the clinician or with your teammates becomes much more about interpersonal skills than dog training skills, which kind of is not fun.
Okay, here's a hack. Use it or not, but I had to.
I was going to say something else, but I needed to be G-rated. So
I needed just a moment, and Checkmate was being extra. And I had an article in my pocket. And so for IGP, for an article, they find it, they lay down, and they keep it between their paws. And they just stay there, and they kind of look forward until you come and release them. And so I needed to have a conversation, and I had an article in my pocket. So I was just like, I just tossed it out, and he went over and he laid down and was doing a perfect article indication. And it gave me quite a while to be able to have the conversation. And I'm like, this is how I can start getting my long down too.
With an article.
So that was my cheat with UConn too, is that I needed to have him have a nice, like, kind of calm long down. And so I was like, I'm going to start it with an article, because they know that behavior and they know the duration with that. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So again.
Yeah. That's a good hack. That's where you can kind of take we talked about our last our last podcast, right? About how the different behaviors and everything, but that's kind of that's a really cool application of that. I like that.
I think Denise Fenzi would be okay with me mentioning this, but she's got a turf named Zen, and she has been doing all of the foundation for the last 2 years. And he's a bitey dog doing Mondio ring and hasn't seen any decoys. So the dog's 2 years old. And that idea that I can teach the foundations, I can teach the concepts. And then when it's time, my dog's a little bit older, has a little bit better brain because, it kind of gets through the adolescent brain. And then will they all generalize and transfer when we start putting them on decoys? So I got to be, I think, his first decoy there at the ranch for a couple of days. And just to see all that transfer was so amazing. And then she just trained with Joachim, and watching the little reels and things. And the last one went totally viral. It gets over 1 million views.
Oh, wow. I think I saw that one. Was that the
defensive handler?
The defensive
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that went totally viral.
I saw it.
It's really cool. And so, but watching that and seeing how instead of chancing it along the way, let's let our dogs grow up. Let's let them be thoughtful. Let's teach them solid foundation. Now, again, that's an excellent trainer. So I wouldn't suggest this to someone that doesn't know what they're doing, or, that's their first dog, but someone that knows what they're doing and knows the thing. What a great way to have good repetitions and not have to worry about having to fix things. Oh, it's so smart. I think she'd be okay with you mentioning that.
Well,
I'm sure.
And I think it's important for people with young dogs to really be thinking about that whole concept of, what am I exposing my puppy to in my detection dog career path? And how is that going to, as we talked about, am I going to like my past self in the future for doing this? And we get wrapped up in seminars I've been to a lot of seminars, and I teach a lot of the basic classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of people who are like, I just want to put my dog on odor. I just want to put my dog on odor. I'm like, whoa, hang on there, cowboy. Let's have a discussion about what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting once you start going through that whole entire, let's talk about not poisoning a cue and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That those foundation things are so incredibly important that we don't rush them.
Yep.
But can't we just search?
Oh my.
That's the fun part. Can't we just search?
That's what makes the handlers and the trainers. That's reinforcing for the handlers and trainers. Dogs already know how to do that. They were born knowing how to do that. We don't have to teach them how to do that.
But that's the easy part. Can't we just search?
Well, I know I'm gonna knife you.
I saw that look on her face. I'm like,
Stacy's like, I'm out.
Yeah. I'm not getting in the middle of this. Middle of
now,
night.
there is something to be said for that, because there is the point where you need to be reinforced for training. And I think it's okay, but you have to know what you're reinforcing. So when they find the odor, what is your plan? Because if they don't have the behaviors, or you don't know how to read your dog, then what is your plan? If you can tell me what your plan is and why it's so important that they need to do that search without having the end behaviors that you want, okay, then let's do it. But you'll need to explain that to me.
Well, and if you're all about actually getting your young dog to hunt, let them hunt for their toy.
Yeah.
Or for food, because you're still getting to reinforce the hunt then, which is actually the thing that you want to reinforce to begin with. And when they find it, they find their toy, they get reinforced for it. I kind of talked about a whole bunch of that stuff in my Detection Dogs Essentials webinar, which we'll link in the show notes. But
it was good.
That was one of the fun skills that I started really thinking about, is that slice all those things down. And then I take my young dogs to clinics or seminars or things like that. I'll be honest, It's so that they get really good exposure to other people's odors, or if they're not on odor yet, we get really good exposures to the environment. And I get to network with people, which is always fun.
And those are great points right there.
Yeah. I'm kind of my brain's kind of going here because it's not just something about from the sport world. I mean, yeah, we have seminars and stuff, but we also, a lot of people, we trial, right?
Yes.
And if you think about it, every time you trial, you're running somebody else's hides. And every time you trial, it's a test. And I think depending upon, your philosophies and maybe even the organization that you trial in, you may be trialing frequently or infrequently. And depending upon the answer to that question, it may or may not be good for your training. I think, in some cases, I'm thinking about my dog Prize, right? Who is this weekend, she's going to be in her third elite trial. And I was just realizing that she's going to be in season for 2 out of 3 of her elite trials.
Of course.
But that kind of gives you like a span of, she doesn't trial all that often. I've been pumping the brakes on her because basically she just turned 3 years old. But I think sometimes people get such in a rush, they would just want to go out and just keep trialing and trialing. And it goes back to kind of what we're talking about. Like if you go out and you do maybe the training's not so good, or if you're at a seminar, maybe the training's not exactly right for your dog or whatever, is that going to impact your dog? Well, if you go to a trial, you trial a lot, and maybe the hides aren't that great for your dog, or maybe they're encouraging different types of searching behaviors that are not necessarily conducive for where you are in your training, how that could impact let's say you're having a hide commitment issue, but you're trialing at a level where there's always multiple hides, things like that. So what you're doing, whether you're training or whether you're trialing, all of that is going to impact your dog's training and how they search.
Agreed. Agreed.
I like that. Agreed.
That was concise. That was really concise.
Yes.
That's a very thoughtful answer, Robin. That's a moment of brilliance right there.
Yeah. Done.
Ditto. She didn't throw a ditto at you at least.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, and I do think, though, Stacy, to bounce off what you were saying, one of the things that I greatly appreciate in students when they come here and we've set up all of these problems and they start looking at us, hopefully by the end of day 2, because we've harped on it enough. But even I know that we set this up in distraction camp so that by the end of day 3, students are actually looking at us and saying, I'm modifying the problem in this way so that I can make it successful for my dog.
Yeah. I've recognized that. Distraction camp is wonderful.
Yeah.
And so being able to walk in, and I've done it to people that I've taken seminars from, and I think I sometimes apologize to them because I'm like, I'm just going to modify this. I'm going to start over here because this is what's going to work for my dog. And I do think that other people who are teaching recognize that and they go, oh, excellent. And so I would challenge students on a regular basis. Teachers, don't shoot me. Don't send hate mail. That if there is something set up and you get to watch other dogs work it and you're like, you know what, my dog's not there, or I want to do this, I want to put longer nose time on it, all of these other things, you can always start in a different location.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But I still want to laugh when you did that at one of the seminars. I'm like, did you ask to do that? You're like, no.
I didn't. I just went ahead and did it because I was like, I just have to do this for my dog because otherwise this is a pointless exercise.
Well, that's the difference between you being a trainer, right? And having some experience there and just kind of going along with the flow.
Yeah. There may be other dogs that I could have just gone with the flow, but with this particular dog, no.
Yeah. It would have been bad, but still it was entertaining. Because I figured you had a conversation. You were so confident. You just walked out, you did the thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I like that variation. And I was like, did you ask? No.
No.
Nope. There's a thing called forgiveness. I'd rather ask for that.
Yes. I will just ask for that in this particular situation. Oops.
And it did make sense because it was, anyway.
We were slicing behaviors down. And I think that's one of the things. That's why the starting in a different location, maybe you have different criteria that you're setting out than what the objective of that training was that your team set up or that particular clinician wanted to have done. You're like, no, this is my criteria for this problem because that's too complex of a scent issue. So I'm going to click nose close to odor.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. When I'm teaching, I'm, always like, well, where do you want to start? People will sometimes ask, or everybody kind of assumes that everybody starts at the same spot. It's like, well, you don't need to. You don't need to.
Not
it's all about making, that dog successful or that team successful.
That was something I appreciated about Muscatatuck too. I liked that some of the teams would come in at Shantytown and we would ask, like, why are you starting there? Well, that's where the last person started. Okay, well, why are you starting there?
Yeah.
And you get that kind of blank stare of like, oh,
where somebody have a brain cramp.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, what are you trying to work on?
Right.
Oh, well, my dog needs this, this, or this. Okay, well, then what if we start over here instead?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why.
Yep.
And then it's that light bulb of, oh, I really like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good thing when your instructor also advocates for you. I thought Robin Houston was so great at that.
Yeah.
She's great at a lot of things.
Oh, she is. She's so good.
She's amazing.
If you ever get a chance to work with her, she's in the Kansas City area.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's on the queue for an interview. So we just got to schedule a date with her.
Yeah, and she's such a nice person.
So we've talked a lot about advocating for your dog and actually how that helps like bring clarity into your training. But one of the things that really happens is if you're going into like that bad training once a month thing, how do you maintain the motivation to go to training?
My dog is injured a lot. He doesn't feel well today. He had to stay home.
That's hard.
Is that my outside voice?
That was your outside voice.
For sport people, if that's the case, you just find a new instructor.
Yeah, you just don't go.
Yeah, you just don't go. You vote with your dollars. So it's a little bit of a different situation. It's like, well, you know what? If I don't like this training, there's another
person to go train with, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We just, in search and rescue, people just start another team.
Okay.
It's not go to another team. There may not be another one. So let's just start one.
So we just start one.
Yeah.
So somebody just starts
protection sport, same way.
You just start a new club. Thing. Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not working here. Where else can I go? I guess we just start it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Because and there's at least, where I live, if you spin around, close your eyes and walk 10 steps, you're going to run into a different nosework instructor. So not that I've actually tried that specifically, but there's so many in the area that, if it doesn't work out with one, and then you just find another one. But yeah, I could totally see that being, how would you manage that? I don't know.
Well, I do, because I've been in this situation. I go to trainings and I set up my own stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't run the stuff that everybody else is running. And I know sometimes that doesn't make me super duper popular. But what ends up actually happening is then other people run my problems too. I volunteer to set out problems because then I can control what's being set out and how it's being set out. Well, it's more or less how it's being set out so that I can work my dog on that stuff. And then I let people be like, you know what? These are free. If you want to go work them, that'd be great. I set them up for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look at me, be a helpful, good team player.
So you guys want to mess it up? I went ahead and did it. So yeah.
Well, and maybe I can. Okay, welcome to the world of being type A. Right.
I don't know anything about that.
Right. Other thing that I do is I let them run their dogs first. Because then I can see how odor's presenting and if I even want to run that one with my dog. Right. And if multiple hides have been set out, you don't have to do all of them.
I really enjoyed training with a group. It's just like a side training. It was on Wednesday nights. And what we did was we came in with our training plan of what our objective was. And then you would tell the other person what you wanted, what problem you wanted. You'd get to choose your source. So we all would bring our source together and say, this is what we have, what do we need? And then that meant that everybody got to run their own problem. Now, by own problem, it would mean I would tell that person what I would want, or I would set it up for myself. So either way.
Yeah.
So then everyone get to see your dog run the problem that you wanted, and it wouldn't have any other dog distractions if you didn't want that. Like if you wanted your dog to run after the other dogs, you had that opportunity as well. So, but at least everybody was guaranteed to have a problem that met their objective. And then you had all the other problems too, then that you've already got to see at least one dog run, and to know if that was something you wanted to do with your dog, or if you wanted to run your one problem with your objective and then be done. Mm-hmm. I loved that. That was so great.
That was nice. That's nice.
If you're in a situation where let's say you're on a team or something, and you're not thrilled with the type of training that your dog is getting. I mean, you're probably training on your own also, right?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, most of it.
Okay.
90% of your training is by yourself.
I would assume so. It was just kind of a question mark. Just curious.
But that's the hard thing, is you're doing area search where you have to rely on others, because they're the ones hiding.
Right.
And that's where you get really creative about things. And then some people don't like your creativity. And so then that creates conflict when you tell your team what you're doing. And then, so then it's like, so then you end up training even more by yourself and not sharing.
Oh, okay.
And that just, so that also gets challenging.
Yeah, could see that.
And it's okay to train people who don't train like you. Like you learn a lot from them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is.
And they can learn some things from you, but
totally,
there has to be some openness to allow that as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, my own coach, like we don't train anything really alike in a lot of ways. And what's really nice though, is that there's definite respect. We can have respectful, very good conversations about how we do things differently and how our perspectives are different. And I think having that mutual respect is just so important, because it just eliminates any kind of conflict or bad feelings.
And I love when someone that trains differently says, I would do it this way. Why don't you think about this? Or why are you doing it that way? Because that's almost always when I go, okay, why am I doing it that way? Thank you for pointing that out.
Right.
And maybe it solidifies why I'm doing it that way.
Oh, yeah.
Or oftentimes it makes me go, okay, all right, if I did just change this thing and sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just had actually recent conversations when I went and did a drop-in, and I mean, we train differently in a lot of different ways. And she was asking me questions and I was kind of answering, and you can kind of see like we were both kind of thinking like, okay, I think it just, in that case, it actually just makes what you do stronger, because you can kind of start to look at it from a different perspective.
Yes.
And it takes the blinders off, right? Those training blinders that if people aren't challenging us, can kind of get in our way, or, we're going to blindside ourselves with something.
Well, or you end up training in a vacuum.
Yeah.
If people aren't constantly, in a good way, challenging, why are you training it that way? You've gone through all of this other stuff. Why do you now choose to do this?
Yeah.
And have all of those particular types of conversations. Well, okay, you've seen this method. Why don't you train using that method?
Yeah.
Those are great conversations, because we actually get to then kind of sit down as trainers and have a conversation about reinforcement and punishment and generalization and stimuli and all sorts of things.
Communication and clarity.
Right. And those are important things to be having conversations with. Now, that actually provides that the person that you ask those questions is willing to have that conversation.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like just having that mutually respectful dialogue, right?
Yes.
Which goes back to my agility example, where that wasn't going to happen. Right.
No.
And when I said, I just need to put my dog in the car right now, because I could tell that wasn't going to happen, because it became this is what I'm doing. And I was thinking, I'm not comfortable with this. So that's at that point that it diverged, right? As opposed to having a conversation and just sharing ideas.
Right.
Yeah. So it's all about mindset, right? Mindset of the coach or the clinician, and mindset of the students.
Of the student. Yeah. Or the learner.
Yeah. Yeah. The learner.
Okay. So what's really funny is this just occurred to me as to how many conversations we end up having about people communicating with people.
We don't have to do that in dog training. This is dog training, Robin, right?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I wrote down, I'm a dog trainer. But then I realized I don't actually train a lot of dogs directly. And then my mind blew up.
Yeah. No, I train a lot of people to train dogs.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah. And it's
funny.
And Crystal just trains a lot of kids. She trains people.
Children.
Because art teacher is hard.
Only like 130. Yeah, like 130 a day is all.
Yeah. No, it was funny. She was like, I'd rather be putting up lights in your new kennel building. And I'm like, dude, if I had your job, I'd be in jail. So,
there was a really funny, like little TikTok or meme or whatever. It's little short reel. And the guy was like, okay, if I could just have 33 teenagers who don't want to learn what I want to teach, and I want them to come in and sit for an hour. And then after that hour, I want them to leave. And then I want another group of 30 to 35 teenagers that don't want to learn what I have. And then at night, I want to go and I want to read all the things they had to say.
Oh, no.
And then I want to tell them what they needed to do better. And then I want them to do better the next day when I give it back to them. And I don't want a lot of pay for this. Is there a job out there like that?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I was rolling.
Oh, no.
I'm
just sitting here going, whoa, it's that conversation of like, just describe what you do poorly.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that? Like, describe what you do poorly, and what you come up with is just kind of.
Yeah. So that was just one of those things that hit me.
Yeah.
As we're sitting around in this little podcast that we've been doing for coming up this spring will be almost 2 years, which is like crazy nuts.
I mean, we're not far from 100 episodes.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, and
we're in the 80s. It's kind of nuts.
And so I appreciate the fact that people are still listening to us, and that I get to spend a lot of time with you guys. But
that we keep coming up with things to talk about.
I know, we still but how much of the time it always, let's talk about communication skills.
Right.
I just feel this overwhelming gratitude for praying with the different people. As we're talking about this, I think of so many people that don't have the means. Like I have friends in South Dakota in the middle of nowhere. And so they have online ways, but there's no in-person. And, in St. Louis area, we have a pretty thriving dog community here.
Yeah.
But to connect with the people that I've connected with, it's not just luck. Like I've worked really hard at that. And that communication piece is what you're talking about. And it's the reaching out and putting the time into people that may or may not want to stick around. And that's hard. And then you get to that point where you connect with enough people, and then you can find other people that are better fit for them. Mm-hmm. And it makes their life better too. And that's what I love about what you do, Robin, is you're such a connector of people. And so I feel just so grateful to just be connected with all of you. And I know that part of that is also part of what I have done by being kind to people. So I guess that's the other kind of takeaway too, is be kind and open and giving, even when they don't know anything. That's okay. Still give and still branch out. And that's where those connections happen. And it's magic. And I'm so thankful for all these connections.
Well, and I think that is actually the foundation of kind of what the collaborative, when we started this whole thing, was about, is the fact that we three come from very different dog worlds and are sitting around having discussions about all sorts of things. And we've now gone from, oh my gosh, look, we have this concept that's happening in the bite sports world to the nose work world to the professional detection work. And it's all about, we're all trying to do fun stuff with our dogs. So let's just not let the people get in the way.
So be nice to the people.
Right,
Be nice to the
exactly.
people, but we all want to do fun stuff with our dogs.
Yeah.
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 Don't let the
So,
politics get you down. Don't let
No.
the snark get you down.
Yeah.
And the challenge that I like to give, and it was in this like coffee bean thing they're doing at school. And so they were saying like, be the coffee bean because do you guys know that one?
No.
No.
I wish I wish it would bring things up that I can't say right off.
We're like, coffee bean,
But it was just saying that like different things when you apply pressure, or it was just saying like when you put the coffee bean in the water, that the coffee bean like becomes even more wonderful and it spreads out and it becomes delicious.
But you got to grind it to a
Whereas-
pulp before you can put it in the water. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know why I brought something up that I can't speak to.
Well, so there's a whole book called The Coffee Bean, A Simple Lesson to Create Positive Change.
Okay.
It's really good and it's really powerful. It's like be the coffee bean. Why did I bring this up?
I don't know.
Well, because you were talking about, I think that it connected in your little brain that's
About being
Crystal's
kind.
creative brain about being a positive change for positivity.
It
That's
was, and I wanted to go somewhere with it. Of course, Yukon started climbing over the table and trying to step on the computer at the
I
same
saw
time.
that.
So
And
that
I'm
also,
like, oh, he's cute.
yeah, it wasn't cute. I would like have my hand on his forehead, pushing him away, like I'm about to get tackled.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, coffee
Okay,
bean.
and
Yeah.
I will totally call myself out because I wanted to try and help you out and give you some help. And now I'm buying a book on Amazon. So,
Oh my God. I'm like, I'll wait for the show notes.
well, it's
Yeah.
how to be a coffee bean.
It's
And I'm like,
really good. And so every day at school, we
Caffeinated or decaffeinated? Sorry.
Oh, it was something about the hot water. Like when you put it in hot water, for most things, hot water is bad. But that's when the water gets hot, that's when it releases all the fragrances and the flavor. And if you're like the bean, then when things are really hard and really difficult, you just keep getting better and you're just making everything around you even better. And so that's something I really enjoyed, this kind of weekly encouragement at school. And so I think that's where, even if the situation is bad,
Mhm.
be the coffee bean and don't let the pressure get to you, but instead, and that's what I'm trying really hard to embrace because like with
Yeah.
Radish, especially,
Yeah.
I have to be the coffee bean with her because when the heat gets hot, I got to get my shoulders out of my ears and I got to unclench my jaw.
Yeah.
And so every time now, before I even get out of the van,
Yeah.
I sit there and my first check is my jaw.
Yeah.
Am I clenching my teeth?
Yeah.
If I am, I have got to change things before I can even get my dog out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's actually really makes me think about Brava, right? I have a lot of history of a lot of the two of us being frustrated. And I've been able to kind of get away from that this summer and then late this summer and then in this fall. And it's changing our relationship. And that's one of those things that I like that idea is like, as we move into, because she's got, some summits or at least one summit coming up, hopefully more than that for the fall, is needing to stay in that headspace of that positivity and that working cooperatively with her and vice versa. Right. So I like that visual.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, ladies.
I'm just going to call her, okay, coffee bean.
Yes. Time for
Yeah.
takeaways.
Yes. Takeaway is she is definitely caffeinated. Definitely caffeinated. And so's her mother, me.
I think I'm just, and it's probably where I am, it's studying what we just talked about, but it's the awareness piece, the mindfulness
Mhm.
piece. That's what I'm really trying to work on.
Yeah.
So can I be in the moment and can I advocate for myself and my dog, if not even outwardly, but
Mhm.
just inwardly in ways that just me getting my headspace right is going to help her.
I think mine goes back to just trying to think about things from a perspective of mutual respect when you are working with somebody who may not even think the same way that you do, and how you end up with so much of a positive outcome. So if you can kind of come at it, like even if you're working with a clinician or if it's an instructor, or even just like if you're just getting together to work with somebody, just like a training partner, that the aspect of mutual respect, and if you have different perspectives, it will make you a better handler and it'll make you a better trainer. And I would go for that.
I think my takeaway is that when you come from the idea of the mutual respect, that you also understand that sometimes that respect means saying no. And you are the person who can look at something, a training or whatever, and say, set a boundary. That's not what I want to do. You do not have to try the new cool methodology that you learned, so that you actually make sure that it fits in with your training philosophy or your training trajectory, so you don't hate your past self in the future.
The takeaway for teachers, I think some people have a business model in their mind that they can't give away all their things and they need to only give away little pieces. And I hope that they reconsider, because you're not doing anybody any favors. So by keeping that little key piece away that might give that person success, that's not what collaboration and what helping each other is about. Everyone can get better. There's nobody that's the best. And so that, yeah, just keep sharing, keep giving to each other, and let's keep making everybody better. Okay, Robin, take away.
Okay. So you know what? That was fabulous, everybody.
Close out.
I will. I just want to say, Crystal, that was a fabulous closing thought. And with that, I'm going to encourage everybody to go train.
Canine Detection Collaborative! We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.